Folks. Hey, welcome back. My name is Rudy. You're watching Alpha Investments for a long talk about life, finances. I finally got back to this location. I only get over here probably once a month, and this is where I have my whiteboard, so I need to probably move this so I can film more of these. So today, hopefully everything's clear. I did lower the resolution of the video because there's no point in having 60 frames per second on a finance video. Today we're talking about choices in this new market. So magic's in a weird state. Negativity in vintage magic, sealed boxes, old, new, all ages, continues to be probably the most bearish, weakest, negative I think I've ever seen in the almost 8 years I've been on YouTube at this point. I can't even keep up with the amount of people contact me to sell collections. I apologize if I haven't responded to you and you've contacted me. I'm doing the best I can. I'm trying to focus on kind of the higher dollar amount ones with a ton of vintage. Just the sheer volume is crazy. Same thing with sealed product. A lot of new people who've only bought sealed product in the last 24 months, and they entered the market during the boom of 2021, most of which are upside down or probably negative between negative 10 and 20, maybe even negative 30%, depending on what they bought, because of the boom and bust cycle we went through. I do not believe, as we go into this video here, I do not believe we will be entering another major 2021 extreme bull market boom cycle for crypto collectibles and everything. I think it's going to be a very long time. And I don't mean a couple months. I think it could be years. And I say years, it could be 5 to 10 years for an extreme movement. Now, I do expect more normalized, 5 to 8% a year. Some boxes will creep up. I think we're back to normal. And I know to a lot of you all that feels very nasty and feels very like losing and waste of time, but this is kind of back where we're supposed to be. So today I'm going to share a story about real estate. And I want to paint you guys a picture of how much things have changed. So I'm 38 years old. Going to be 39 pretty soon here in mid-August coming up. I know I'm an old fart. And in my entire life, I've never sold a rental house or I've never even sold real estate. In the last 30 days, I sold my first small house piece of real estate that in my entire life. I've never sold real estate. I'm usually a hoarder, just like magic cards. And I sold my smallest rental house that I bought in 2005 as kind of a learning thing. So I'm going to tell you why I sold it and why for the first time ever I made that choice. And you're going to see the parallels to magic and collectibles. So long story short, okay, here we go. Long story short, we're in the market. For the first time ever, guess what we have? We got choices for the first time ever. I mean, we've never had choices in a high interest rate environment. The fact that interest rates are high and the fact that everything has shifted so quickly in the last 24 months, parking money just in collectibles is no longer as attractive as it used to be. Now, I maintain the same thing I told you guys 7-8 years ago. Collectibles is a great thing to add to any portfolio of stocks, bonds, real estate, collectibles, crypto. It's a great addition because it tends to not move in the same correlation as the S&P. It is a great item to have. And again, you're still a Timmy. If you put all your money in collectibles, you're still a Timmy. If you put all your money in crypto. But these are great diversified things to have in a bundle. So with that being said, guess what? Why did Rudy sell his first piece of real estate in his whole life? Well, I sold it for $250,000, okay? Now, this house was renting for $1,500 a month. So the actual rent on this property that it was paying me was $1,500 a month. Okay? Now, there's no mortgage on the property. I've had it paid off for years. The first 8 years I owned the property. I did double mortgage payments, so by year 12 or 13 or something, I paid it off because I did double payments every month. And my mortgage was like $1,000 a month. I used to rent it for $1,100 or $1,200, and I added $300 a month in my own pocket just to pay it off. So it was negative cash flow, but I just wanted to pay it off. So I was renting for $1,500 a month. Why did I sell it for $250,000? Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to use the most basic, common thing there is, and that is cash is paying. What's these money markets? What's Robinhood paying? 4.9%. So cash is paying 5%. Technically, it's 4.9. No lock-in period. FDIC insured for up to $2 million. if you use Robinhood, not affiliated, but it's just something I've used for a long time. There's no lock-in period. And yes, I know FDIC is $250K, but Robinhood uses 8 banks and they sweep and they divide it between 8 banks. So you get FDIC up to $2 million, whatever. Look at the website, read the terms. So I'm going to use for the purpose of this video that the risk-free rate is 5%. So over here, 5%, okay? No lock-in, no CDs, not locking in for 3 years, not 5 years. So just for right now, we're going to say the risk-free rate is 5%, and there are BBB rated corporate bonds. You know, I don't want to say specific names because it looks like let's use a simple one. In the corporate bond market, I'm not recommending this because, again, this is regulated stuff. Ford bonds. Ford bonds pay between, I think, like 8% or something when I checked a few weeks ago. So let's say, I don't know what Ford bonds are rated. BBB, BB+, single A, I don't know. Let's say they're low investment grade, not quite high yield junk. So let's say you can buy a 20-year Ford bond. And again, not recommending that. I'm just trying to give an example out there. You can go E-Trade, secondary market, corporate debt offerings. You can buy it from someone else. So let's say there's 8% with, I don't know. So this is no lock-in. And let's say this is 20-year. Okay, so you get 8% every single year for 20 years. Okay, so we got to lay out these fundamentals for everybody, okay? So we got, over here, we've got the alternative choice. And over here, we've got the real estate choice, okay? Eventually, we're going to come down the middle, giggity, and we're going to talk about magic and collectibles. But for the purpose of this video, I sold this tiny house for the first time. I've only turned it on. I think there's only 3 tenants there. The tenants were very nice people. They stayed a long time. But anyways, I sold the house for $250K. The reason I did that is because I was getting rent of $1,500 a month. I have no mortgage. So the only thing I owe on the property, there's no HOAs, no CDD fees, community development fees, no homeowners association there. So we're going to keep it very simple in this video. The only thing I owed was escrow, which is essentially insurance, $100 a month. So insurance is $100 a month. Taxes, I think the taxes were $300 a month. I think taxes were $300 a month. And I think, let's see here. Insurance was $100. Taxes were $3,000 a year, technically like $280, close enough. I think that's it. Okay, so we'll go with that. So technically, this property netted me $1,100 a month, assuming utopia, perfect, Truman Show world. No missed rent payments, no turning over the house, no repairs. And again, we're going to go into it. It's going to be a long video. We're going to talk about amortization costs. We're going to talk about, a roof has a life cycle 20 years, air conditioning in Florida. 10 years before you probably have to replace the whole thing and how extreme the heat is. These are all expenses that you have to factor in, divide by the lifespan of these wearable parts. But we'll get, water heater, utilities, simple thing. So we're down to $1,100 a month rent, okay? So essentially, in 12 months, $13,000 a year. You want to call it even? Let's just call it even $13,000 a year. So we multiply this by 12 months. I think it's like 13.2 or 13.3. But we're going to call it, all right, you know what? Some of you are going to give me a hard time if I'm off. 13, so it's 13,000. Is it 13.2? I think it's 13.2. I'm not using a calculator. I'm smart. I made it through the 2nd grade. So you get $13,200 is my net rent from this $250,000 property. Now, if I take this $250,000 and I sell the house and I move it over here and leave it in a 5% money market sweep, insured, zero risk, whatever, with no lock-in period, well, guess what? 1% of $250,000 is how much, everybody? $2,500. 5% is how much? $12,500. So if we move this to this, suddenly this pays $12,500 a year. And again, I'm not going to go into taxes and tax rates, and because now we can get into the whole, well, Rudy, you can depreciate this and the write-offs, you won't really have the taxes on the money. And over here, you can't really write off the taxes. You can't ninja and reduce your tax rate as much as you can with real estate. I understand that, but taxes get very complicated on YouTube because every state, every individual situation is different. If this is in Florida versus New York, or if it's held in your name versus a company or an LLC, it gets very complex. So we're not going to go into taxes, and I know it's a huge variable. But I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible because we're going to go into the magic thing in a second here. I'm going to check, make sure the camera's still going good. Are we still good, everybody? Excellent. So, as we can see right now, in a perfect world, no lost rent, no repairs, no turnover, nothing ever goes wrong, perfect 70-degree weather, no humidity, sunshine every day, and it only rains and it sprinkles. No trees, no dramatic thunderstorm. When it rains, it's very gentle. As you can see, what's happening here is the rents versus the interest on the same amount of money start to become the same. Now, before 2023, the last 5-10 years, this was not a thing, okay? In fact, if you look at big banks right now, B of A, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, any of these big banks, what they call national banks, not regionals, not credit unions, not local, these big banks, which most of you are probably using, you're going to notice the interest that they're actually paying you on your checking and savings account is probably still 0.1, maybe 0.5%, maybe 1%. Big banks know that the average deposit, the average balance in a checking and savings account in America, in this rough, volatile, rich people have everything, working class is pretty much getting nuked. Big banks and corporations know that the average balance, I think I read the average balance is $3,000 to $5,000 in the United States is an average checking account balance. Based on that average dollar amount, the average working individual does not care if they're making, 0.1%, which is like a penny. They're not going to care if they're making this or this. So if you're a big bank like Chase, B of A, Wells, any of these guys, there is no incentive for you to raise your deposit rate when the average American doesn't care. And if you have 100 million checking accounts with $5,000 apiece, you're talking insane amounts of money that the bank is essentially paying zero on, and the bank is sweeping and lending out, fractional reserve banking, not going to get into it, but they are lending that money out on mortgages, car loans, credit cards, the average rate's like 15-20%. I think car loans and used car loans, I think used car rates are like 8 to 12%. New car rates are like 5 to 8. So again, the bank is taking the average Timmy's $5,000 checking account deposit, okay, and they are paying you nothing, a penny a month, and they are sweeping it and lending it out and getting an average yield of probably between 8 and 12% between car, home, credit card, personal loans, SBA, personal business, all this crap. So the money that banks are making is absolutely through the roof, okay? Now the banks are losing their ass because, of course, they didn't hedge and properly adjust their interest rate swings, interest rate swaps, and a lot of these guys are getting hosed and holding a ton of long-term mortgages and bonds that are paying 2%, and that's another conversation. But the thing is, because of this situation, most banks aren't going to pay much because the average person is a sucker and they put up with it, okay? Now, in this situation, let's go back to this, okay? When we look at this, it's like, okay, before this was a thing, when I couldn't get this on risk-free money, let's say before interest rates went up, I could only make that, maybe 1%, maybe 2% a year. Well, suddenly, why would I sell the house to lock it into something risk-free and make this when the rent on the house, in a perfect world, can bring in this? So obviously, in all the years leading up to this high interest rate swing that we're in now, which I think rates are going to stay high for longer than everyone thinks, all of a sudden, for the first time ever, cash is no longer trash, and cash is more exciting. Because before rates went crazy, okay, and this is how the world was. Ugh, terrible. When cash paid nothing, this is one of many variables why you saw the big boys buying all, you ever notice all these big corporations, the BlackRocks, Invitation Homes, Zillow, all these Open Doors, OfferPads, all these companies were done and buying all these houses across the United States. And they were driving up the housing. Why? Because Wall Street had access to insane billions and trillions of dollars at 1%, and pretty much they saw the opportunity to make that. Now, on average, on a normal thing like this comes out to about 6%. Well, what was that, 5.5%? I think maybe, well, let's just call it 5.5. Let's call it 5. I want to try to be as accurate as possible. I know otherwise people beat me up. So the rent on this is 5.5% based on the money you have tied up, So in normal situations, when it doesn't look like this versus this, in the past, when this wasn't an option, this is why you saw all this Wall Street money because the government's stupid and they just print like crazy and hand it out in helicopter and PPP loans. That's what happened to Magic. And when you see all this free dumb shit, when you have people of power who are making decisions at short-term benefits, at long-term expenses and costs, well, this is what happens, okay? You have Wall Street money start flowing to the path of least resistance. Money wants to always flow where it's the easiest to get a return and a yield. Therefore, it was going to real estate for the last so many years. Now that rates are high, the money stopped. Real estate is not a good friend with high interest rates, straight up. Now, in my situation, I looked at this and I said, okay, what else am I missing? What other thing am I missing in this situation? Well, I'll tell you what I'm missing. The house appreciates in value. This doesn't appreciate in value. I mean, it may go up if they keep raising rates further, maybe 5.5 or something. But overall, in a normal world, in a normal world, the face value of the piece of real estate should appreciate an average of like 2 to 4% a year. So for the sake of this video, real estate should go up plus 3% a year. So in addition to getting the yield, cash flow, the rent payment, whatever fucking terminology you want to use, in addition to collecting payments, the actual face value of the item that you're drawing on should appreciate a couple percent a year. Now, obviously, in the crazy, distorted world of government intervention and printing and PPP fucking stupid loans and people who milk the system, the amount of fraud that went on in this country with the government and the loans during the 2020 is beyond anything that I can comprehend. You can it's whatever you think it is, however bad you think it is out there, you can 10x it, my friend. I assure you that. So this, obviously, you know, what 2021 would real estate go up 20% in a year or something? But in a normal situation, which I feel we are now in, which is why you see the negativity. Magic's dead. Rudy's heavy bags. That's all over with. You know, this is called, that's how I know we're back to normal. I do not think sealed products is dead. I'm the only one left. Everyone else has quit. Pokemon's dead. Weiss is going to zero. I think Magic, they're paying people to take it. I mean, everything's dead. Everything's dead. Sorcery's going to the moon. MetaZoo is at -1. Flesh and Blood is at -0. Can you have a -0? We have a -0. And that is the attitude of everybody right now, which tells me we're at the phase that people have given up hope. And I believe we are going through a kind of a capitulation, kind of giving up type attitude. My opinion. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But this is my opinion. So I believe moving forward, interest rates stay high and we return to the normal movement of real estate. And I know right now, most real estate in most segments of the country are actually negative, like -1, -2% a month, or it's actually not really appreciating at all. But for the sake of long term, and the sake of this video, and me trying to spin my evil narrative, I'm going to say real estate goes back to appreciating 3% a year, okay? So 3%, actually, I'm going to change the data. Hold on. I'm going to change this to 4% a year because I want easy math. So if real estate appreciates 4% a year, you know, 1% of 250,000 is 2,500. So 4% a year is 10 grand a year. So each year, this house should go up plus 10K, right? I know it doesn't include compounding and all you smart people out there, but I'm dumb. Cut me some slack. Second grade here. So when I look at this, I say, okay, let's see this. So what should I be doing? What's the best thing for evil rich people to do right now? What is it? What should I be doing? Should I be leaving this, collecting my 13K a year, waiting for some appreciation on the face value of the house itself? Or should I come over and start looking at other things? So now let's go into reality. Okay? Reality, let's add the real cost of things. Okay? Let's assume, according to the internet, which you know is always accurate, and social media is always accurate, and it's all real, there's no fake news out there. According to the internet, the average life cycle of a tenant staying in a house is 2.5 years. So we're going to say 2 years. So the average person who rents a house stays there for 2 years. Some stay longer, some stay 1 year and leave, so the average is 2. Which means every time you turn over a house, historically, you lose 2 months of payments. The first 30 days, clean it up, blah, 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 fix it. Maybe it's bad, maybe it's good. Relist it, takes a couple weeks. People don't move until the first. historically, every couple years, you lose 2 months of rent. Okay? Now, if every 2 years, you lose 2 months worth of rent on the turnover, essentially, that's like losing almost 1 month's worth of rent on average every 12 to 15 or 12 to 18 months. So technically, in reality, when you adjust that down, technically, we should actually multiply by 11. On a long-term scale, you should actually, which actually comes out to, let's just put this in, down to 12,000. I know, I'm rounding, cut me some slack. Now, the next thing we're going to go into is your two biggest expenses on real estate is always going to be your air conditioning and roof. Okay? So AC and roof. Okay? On a house like this, a roof is probably going to cost me $15,000. It's not a big house. I think it's probably 1,600 square feet, 2-car garage. It is concrete block, no wood frame though, so that's nice. No termites or anything. Air conditioning, whole new system, $6,000. And for the sake of this video, we're going to say the roof lasts 20 years and the AC lasts 20 years. I know, 20 years without service and having repairs or evaporators or leaks or freon is not possible, but humor me. I'm trying to make fun stuff. That's about 21,000. Okay? If this on average has to be overhauled every 15 to 20 years, 21,000, that's going to come out to be just under $1,000 a year. So I'm going to say that's, you divide that by 17 years, that comes out to be 21,000. So is that $800 a year in amortized cost? $900 a year? I think about $900 a year. Okay, so this comes out to be $900 a year. Technically, you should be amortizing and putting in your own escrow account so that when these things break, the money is already, everything's self-sufficient. It's what large insurance companies do, like Geico, homeowners insurance. They amortize costs. They have formulas and algorithms. They estimate how much repairs, they estimate the natural disasters, all this stuff. So if you have a $900 a year for these two main things are wearable parts, you have to say, okay, $900 a year, well, that's $75 a month, just about, right? So now, $75 a month, $900 a year, so essentially, we got to drop this we got to drop it down to $11,000 a year. Is technically our rent take-home. Okay, so our take-home net, when adjusted for this and this, is about that, and that's including turning over a house, two main amortized costs. Now, we're also going to factor in about $50 to $100 a month for random repairs. Electrical, your water heater goes bad for so many years. I don't know, you got a roof leak, you got to repaint the inside of the house, the outside of the house, you got to replace the refrigerator. So we're going to add another $50, $75 a month. So essentially, in my opinion, you're going to net around $10,000 a year out the door. That's, in my opinion, on a large scale, if you have 100 houses, you had 100 identical houses, all side by side, most likely, that is going to be your net amount. Can you guys see that at the bottom? You can see that, right? Okay, good. So in my personal opinion, this is the true number on a large scale. It's like doing a mass box opening in Magic. If you open one box, you can get real lucky and say, this set's amazing. You can make free tendies. If you get lucky. The next Timmy opens a box. This is the worst set ever. I opened a box of Baldur's Gate, Rudy. I got 0 dragon. Every card I had opened was 1 cent. Then, of course, Billy Bob over here opens one box of Baldur's Gate. It's fucking 3 dragons, kitty cats, and all kinds of stupid stuff. Black mark and everything. He opens one Baldur's Gate box and makes $300. And he says, Baldur's Gate's the best set ever. On small scales, it's too easy to swing the narrative for pro and con. So on a large scale of 100 rental houses, my Rudy opinion is you'll net $10,000 a house in actual rent when amortizing, when planning for actually wearable parts, small actual, utilities and repairs and paint and actually, well, I'm sorry, not utilities, the tenant pays that. Not utilities, the appliances, the refrigerator, washer, dryer, AC, roof, water heater, garage door opener, roof leak, basic flooring, new carpeting, crown molding, whatever. So now when you look at $10,000 a year, the actual number on that is now 4%. The 5.5 was the gross. So the actual yield on the $250K, when you factor in the actual Pac-Men into the item, you're gonna net 4% is the real world money. Not talking about taxes. So 4% is what you get. So now when you stand back and say, hang on a second, that's still good though, Rudy, because if you net 4% and the value of the property appreciates 4%, that's still 8% a year. That's fucking great. You're getting 8%, right? So on paper, it still looks okay. It doesn't look bad. It looks okay. And there are other long-term benefits that I'm not going to go into, but there are benefits here. A lot of tax sheltering. As time goes on, as the price of the house tends to go up, in 5 years, if this house is $300,000, historically, you can raise the rent, okay, from $1,500 a month to $1,600, $1,700 a month. So as the value of the structure in the market goes up, historically, rents will rise in a similar percentage scalability, blah, blah, blah. Ugh. So yes, historically, in a big picture, this could, in 20 years, this could be $500,000, and this rent could be $3,000. So there is long-term benefit that we are not discussing, not including tax shelters, write-off. You can depreciate the structure of the property. There are other benefits, and that depreciation, different things, can also suppress your rent payments where you don't have taxes on the rent money. So there are other intangibles that we're not discussing in this video. Now, for someone like you and me who's working hard, who has $20 billion and 15 private jets, 17 chicks, 48 kids, the normal people like us. Over here, when we're working all the time, we don't always have time for active participation in an investment. I work 7 days a week. You guys know that. You can tell by the direction of my hair, how thin it's, you can tell by everything, okay? So real life, there is benefits of intangible items of not putting time into something and generating similar returns. So now, what I ended up doing is I sold this property, okay? I then moved the money over, and it's getting 5%, compounds monthly. They deposit your payment every month. But I'm going to chop this money up into 5 blocks of $50,000 each, and I'm going to buy 5 different corporate bonds in the secondary market, which all average between 7 and 8%. Well, 6 and 8%. There's a few that are safer that I like at 6. So my average yield is going to be 6 to 8%, and I'm going to lock it in. I'm going to buy long-term bonds. And I'm not buying a mutual fund. I don't care about rates and inflation because I'm going to hold to maturity. Now, that's a whole other video. The concept of what they call hold to maturity, HTMs, are a very, I don't want to go on that path. That's what collapsed a lot of regional banks, because the regional banks held so many bonds, mortgage bonds, with mortgage rates at 2% on their books, but they said they're holding to maturity. But the problem is the face value of those bonds depreciated so much with interest rate swings, but it doesn't matter to the bank because they're holding to maturity. And I don't want to go into that, but the point is, for me, I'd rather hold BBB rated category bonds for around 6 to 8%, okay? At 6 to 8%, that is very similar to this. Now, getting this on $250,000, if I average 7%, 7% on $250,000 is how much, everybody? 4% is $10,000. Then the 3% is $7,500. So that brings in 7% of $250,000. How much, everybody? $17,500. Thank you. Thank you, Timmy, in the back. So I can bring in $17,500 from this 7%. Now, bringing in $17,500, I know, before taxes, blah, blah, blah. Yes, my tax rate is probably a lot higher than you all, blah, blah, blah. But hey, I'm in Florida. It's the tax evil shelter of the world. We don't have state tax. I don't have a city thing. It's different. But anyways, so bringing in this money, okay, is pretty similar to the 8% you can get on appreciation and cash flow from the rent. But the biggest variable we're not discussing is I don't have to do anything over here. I can sit at home and fondle my left nut for 3 hours. I can cut my ear off. I can mail it to myself. I can literally take pictures of my feet and put them online. I can devote other time, okay? I can go and get tacos. I can go to the Chick-fil-A drive-thru over and over, just eat waffle fries until I pass out. It provides me, taking this path, frees up more time for this video and to talk to you all. So why should I have stress uncertainty with tenants and repairs and that middle of the night phone call, when I can stick with this and remove some uncertainty. Okay? 30 minutes into this video. I want to make sure we're still going at 30 minutes in. All right, yeah, 30 minutes in, we're still good. Okay. So the point of this video is, for the first time in the almost 8 years I've been on YouTube, the choices have never been better. Okay? This breakdown of choice is the reason we're seeing real estate prices no longer go up. We're seeing the money flow like water to the path of least resistance, which is no longer buying every house in your neighborhood. We are seeing the shift. Now, without getting into politics and religion and Rudy's hair thinning and my OnlyFans, the blunt reality of my perspective is what the government did with the money printing and loosey-goosey monetary policy was very dangerous and toxic. And I think it's very disrespectful to the average working person in this country. Because what is happening is now we are all paying the price. The problem is rich-ass people who have tons of assets are not paying the price because they get hedged and protected. They get the protection of their assets appreciating in value and canceling out the higher prices that you have to pay in the real world. Rich people are not affected. The hardest working backbone of the middle class United States, which in my opinion is what built this country, is what supports this country, and it's what carries the load of this country. They're the ones who are getting annihilated from this. Because they're the ones who don't have millions upon millions of dollars getting all this interest that are canceling out any rising expenses they have. And this is all a side effect of PPP loans that didn't have to be paid back, that were forgiven. Millions upon millions of dollars, billions of dollars handed out. This was a side effect of having interest rates too low for too long. These are side effects of all of this policy that the government is sloshing that money around. I remember making videos and talking to you all for years on this channel about how much money is sloshing around in this country. I remember that in 2020 talking about it. And I remember when things started going crazy. It was because, again, everybody was told to stay home. And some people, they probably should have stayed home because of health and safety. But a lot of people probably shouldn't have. It was not a blanket situation. As with everything in life, life is more complex than a simple, everyone do this or everyone do that. Usually the best thing to do is, well, some people should do this, some people should do that. That's usually the correct path. But unfortunately, in the real world and in our government society, we kind of tend to take paths that politicians cause damage. And unfortunately now, we are in a situation where regular people have higher rates, higher car payments, higher mortgage payments, higher interest payments on their loans and credit cards, right? And now we're in a situation where rich-ass people who have infinite billions and trillions, apparently like me, I just do this for fun, now the rates of interest are so high, we are making more money. So rich people start making more and more money for not doing anything different. Because there's only two types of people in the United States when it comes to finance. There's only two. I don't care about male, female, and black, white, all this dumb shit that everybody wants you to attack each other with. That's all garbage. All that stuff is for pretty much shallow people to be angry and be focused on with their phone. Who am I mad at today? We hate Rudy? No, wait. That's Timmy shit. There's two types of people in the United States, okay? And there's people who have money, and banks and financial systems are paying these people interest on their money. Category number two, there's people who don't have money and have to pay interest and fees on the little bit of money they have. That's it. There's only two of us. Everyone watching this channel right now, everyone watching this video, there are only two types of people. That's it. You're either paying money and interest and fees on loans, mortgages, car loans, credit cards, or you have so much assets and you have money and the banks are paying you. And you have to ask yourself, which fucking category are you in? There is no third. There is no, well, maybe this. Well, I'm angry today. I saw on the old Twitter, X? Pornhub. What is it? X? Triple X? Whatever dumb shit's going on. People are so wound up on irrelevant things that don't matter in 5 years from now. There's only two types of us. You're either making money in the form of interest, or you're losing money in the form of fees and paying banks in Wall Street. That's it, folks. So now that we kind of laid this out, okay, I want to kind of go over how all this matters to magic, okay? Well, before this was an option, it was pretty much real estate or crypto collectibles kind of things, right? Well, guess what, everybody? Why would anybody go with the magic route at this point in time? Why should anybody do that? Huh? Because rates are so high and Hasbro has such volatile management, this isn't attractive anymore. Putting money into Magic the Gathering is kind of like you're assuming a higher amount of risk with a lower amount of return. And we just discussed for the last 30, 40 minutes in this video that money flows in the path of least resistance. Money is like water. You pour it down a hill. It doesn't go up. It doesn't go straight up and look for your ex-girlfriend. It doesn't look for your stepsister. Washer and dry. The water goes in the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is fucking definitely not Hasbro and Wizards. And the thing that we're learning, and that Hasbro's learning, is the market. The more you mistreat the market, the more the market pulls away from you. It's like a toxic relationship, okay? The more you're rude or an asshole or abuse your significant other, the more that significant other is going to be like this. It's fucking crazy, dude. This chick is nuts. She's got crazy eyes. This guy is a goofball. You know, male or female, don't matter. That individual is going to, it causes long-term damage. Sure, you may get through this and may figure it out and go to work the next day or come. But the point is, it causes a slow, long-term, it builds a bridge. And the bridge is made out of like toothpicks and waffle fries, okay? And the problem is, Wizards and Hasbro is struggling with the concept of we have to beat our numbers from 2021 and 2022. Well, you're not. You're not going to beat those numbers. That's why the earnings are negative year over year. You're not going to beat them. Because those numbers were based on stimulation from a government entity that is no longer happening. Now that we are in high interest rate environments, LGSs are not over ordering Magic anymore. If anything, LGSs are now more cautious in ordering less than they have in years. I'm living proof of that. I didn't even order Lord of the Rings draft or set. And I was about to, because now I just got notification that Lord of the Rings set boxes are off allocation. I can actually special order it. And I've chosen so far to not do it. Because now, on Hasbro's conference call with Dr. Cox, he says that now Lord of the Rings is evergreen. He says we plan on restocking, reprinting that for quite a while. Which all I'm hearing is you're going to print the shit to the ground and you're going to collapse the market. And I don't want to buy into a product to sell to my patrons when I believe now they're going to print it and destroy it. And my patrons are going to get their ass handed to them. I don't want to sit on it. I don't want to sell it to them. I don't want to be a part of it. And that's no matter what the internet may tell you. If I'm concerned about carrying the product, I'm going to skip the product. I'm not going to offer it to patrons. I'm not going to sit on it. I'm going to play it cautious. Commander Masters just came out. To my surprise, the collector boxes are holding up better than I thought. I think they're like $180 plus tax. It's about $195 online, shipped with taxes and shipping. It's actually more stable than I thought. But the set boxes, like I warned everybody about, has been a disaster. You got stores on eBay dumping set boxes of Commander Masters at $270s, $280s. I'm talking 20% below my cost of wholesale. And that's before shipping and fees. I'm getting annihilated. So you have situations where Hasbro is not acknowledging to the market what they're doing wrong. And the market, like any abusive relationship, is pulling away from them. And you're seeing that money flow in other directions. Sorcery, flesh and blood. You're seeing that money flow. Now, does that mean, before I end this video, I know we're like 40 minutes in, right? How long is the video? Jesus, okay, yeah, we're like 40 minutes in. I want to say a few things to everybody. While the negativity and bearishness of Magic does look bleak, it's also very dangerous to not be open-minded and to think that Magic will survive and move forward. I may not like the direction. I may not like the overprinting. I may not like what Dr. Cox and Philip Morris and Cynthia are doing. I may not like some of it. But overall, Magic's extraordinarily powerful brand. It is going to survive. It's going to thrive. It may not survive and thrive in the method that I agree with or you agree with, but it's going to exist. Even if it flushes out the old guard and the old fogies like me, it's going to attract new people and bring in new people to the world of magic with their universes beyond, and apparently all these new crossovers are going to do. Doesn't feel like magic to me, but I have to acknowledge the data in Lord of the Rings, after going through it firsthand, no matter how I feel or you may feel, the data does not agree with my opinion, or maybe your opinion. And that is something that we all have to kind of be able to stomach and acknowledge whether we're right or wrong. And that's the difference between YouTubers who are not around a long time, social media people who boom and bust, and fraud, and they take off. But at the end of the day, that is the real world of free speech and free markets and all this stuff. I mean, we can have fun and do memes, and Rudy can manipulate the market and buy all the bizarre Bagdads and say fake stuff and hose you. But the real market is much bigger than my opinion, and clearly my opinion is not that important. And the market's going to do what it's going to do. It's going to do whatever it's going to do long after I'm gone, and as I'm still here. It's not going to make a difference. So, because of these choices, I don't see vintage magic or sealed magic skyrocketing or being the number one most attractive asset anytime soon. And that is the straight, honest truth about it. As much as I like to say everyone needs to put all your money in this and do this, you can clip that out and make it sound like I'm doing something wrong. But you can make sure you take that out of context. As much as I'd like to say that, I don't think that is the case. I no longer believe sealed or vintage magic cards, or any CCGs, even Pokemon, are going to be the number one performing category. But I didn't really believe that before. But I still maintain the same opinion as 7-8 years ago. And that is, I think adding sealed product to cash and bonds, to a house, to the S&P 500, maybe to some Bitcoin with it, and having a rental property and having mutual funds, I think it still has a place. And I do still think it's going to work. It's going to surprise some people, because at the end of the day, what we also know is that every LGS in the country is so overwhelmed and so negative and so swamped with product. Nobody's hoarding product. Nobody's sitting on excess product. Nobody is overbuying from distributors and waiting. The Amazon dump has caused such a psychological pullback and caused so many people to lose so much money, all these stores and investors, that they're all just like, I'm not doing this shit. They're going to overprint it and then just fire sell it. What am I doing? Why do I even want to give them any money? That is the consensus right now. And that consensus of people have a valid point. We cannot disagree with that opinion. That is a valid opinion. But at the same time, like we said at the beginning of the video, the same time, having that opinion doesn't mean you go cold turkey. Usually the correct thing to do is somewhere in the middle. Like everything in life, it's not simple black, white, yes, no, 1, 0, on, off. Usually the best path in life is navigating somewhere in the middle. And I believe moving forward, even with high rates, where cash is very attractive, bonds are paying a lot, real estate is actually flat or negative right now at least, and even with the high costs of repairs, and there is still a place for collectibles. I don't think Magic is dead. I do believe Magic and Hasbro are going to perform. It's just a lot of us are not happy with how they're performing and how they're going about it. I mean, the insane secret layers and these crossovers it feels like the old Magic is dead. And that is a textbook thing that old guard, old fogies, old farts, old people say about every generation. And the reality is, Lord of the Rings proved, no matter how I feel and how disappointed I am, that Lord of the Rings proved that this is the way. And the data shows that to be correct, even if I don't agree with it and you don't agree with it. And it's important for us to have the conversation and take emotion out. Hope you learned something today. I don't know, how long is this video? 45 minutes? If you watched all the way to 45 minutes on this video, I don't know. Give me something funny below. I don't know. Have a great day, everybody. Crazy world, man.